Happy Friday, everybody. Andrew and Jeff here with you. CFL and MLB talk here today, mostly team totals as always. We're going to recap a little bit of the Thursday night game and then get into some of the CFL games for the rest of the weekend. Jeff, as you know, I love the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday schedule. One game a day is great for me, but how was your Thursday night and how's your week going so far?
Uh, the week's going great. I should be on the run of all runs. It's too long to discuss what happened the other day, but we're on a great little heater. I think if my memory serves me correct, we're on 11-3-2. Our last 16 games had the Braves last night, first five minus the hook. Um, I just want to tell everyone watching and listening, last night was the first NFL game and the Hall of Fame game, and we knew Caleb and the rest of the Bears weren't going to play. And my point here is we talk on the show all the time, Andrew. It doesn't matter. They all cash the same, whether we're talking CFL, whether we're talking NFL, or we're talking ping pong. They all cash the same. But the key that everyone has to know, whether you just found out this morning or late last night, is know your book's house rules. And I remember
Yes.
not too long ago you were sweating a total on CFL because of a storm, and you dug deep and says if the storm and the delay is over 55 minutes, therefore they will call the game, therefore you would have lost your wager. And my point is, anyone that had the Bears, anyone that had the over, was dancing in the streets. And if you had props, God bless you. It's like when we give out full game props and the game is stopped after 5 or 6 innings due to weather or whatever the situation. You don't cash those props, even if you cashed them in the first or second inning, unless you're on a sports book like Fanatics that as soon as it wins, they cash it. So go run to Fanatics and do it. So my point is, anyone that had the Bears, anyone that had the over, that woke up this morning and their account wasn't adjusted and screaming at the top of your lungs, this is what happens.
That's tough. I mean, you got to feel for people like that. You got to feel for them. But again, the house rules, you have to understand the rules, what you're just getting yourself into. But when it comes down to it, even if you know the rules, nobody's going to be happy. Whether you know the rules or not, they're not going to be happy. I heard some of the sports grid guys talking about that, what you were talking about with some of the sports books, because for me, Bet365, when I'm betting on hockey during the year, when my game is over 5.5 and we get 6 goals, the bet cashes and it goes into my account, the money. Like it's I don't have to wait until the game ends. For the most part, I think for some stuff you will have to, like maybe for an NBA game, or it depends, I guess. But like you said, some books, the second that you get over that number you need to for the total, it will cash. And that's kind of like the new age books, especially the mobile apps. I would say the apps are better, but some of the, like a place like Bet Online and some of those books that are mostly just online and like use those computer softwares, I think they're sometimes taking a few minutes after the game's over to grade you. And let me ask you this though, Jeff: how many people bet the first half? Because first half has become a popular bet. People, props, team totals, all this and that. But for a preseason game, were many people bet in the first half? Because those guys that did would have cashed or lost their tickets. Everybody
Yeah,
else gets a void.
the NFL has changed where we used to have four preseason games. The first 2 weeks were let the newbies, let the kids, let's see what we have. The third week was the dress rehearsal, and then the fourth week was, hey, who's trying to make the team and who's going to make the practice squad, and that has changed now. And so obviously, outside looking in, I would say Chicago knows they got their guy with Caleb Williams. He must be doing very, very well. We didn't need to see him this week. So when you talk about the first halves again, it's a lot of people claim, I'll use the word claim, that they're very, very successful in the preseason because they have all these sources. They know Aaron Rodgers is playing for the first quarter and the first drive in the second quarter. Therefore, I have an edge at quarterback. Therefore, I'm taking the Jets first half. A lot of people will play the first halves because I know Joe Burrow is not only playing the first half, he's playing that first series in the third quarter again. So it's kind of who you know or who you think you know. It's still all a crapshoot. Again, just buyer beware and be comfortable. The people that are screaming and hollering, how can they do this? It was a win. You might have had a little too much on that game to be screaming at the very first preseason game of the 2024 season.
Yeah, it does seem to be a common theme, Jeff, that everybody believes that the favorite will cover in the first half and the dogs will cover in the full game. But I think what a lot of people forget is that the people that are playing in the second half are the ones that are really fighting for their lives. If a guy that's a regular starter goes out there in the first half, has a nice drive, 7 for 8, 7 for 9, whatever it may be, kicks a field goal, and they say, "We've seen enough of you. You can go on the bench now." That the coaches are fine with that. The coaches don't care what some of the guys they've already seen play in the NFL look like as much. And so I'm going to bring somebody else up before we start getting to some picks. The Canadian Nathan Rourke, he signs with the Atlanta Falcons, and a lot of people have been kind of debating how they feel about this whole situation. Ever since he left being a superstar for the BC Lions, he's just been searching for a home, and he actually inked a contract. He signed it. It was like close to, I think it was like 900,000 or 750,000 American, and that's upwards of $1 million Canadian if we do the exchange rate here. But for him to, I think it was Jacksonville, the New York Giants, the Patriots for a short stint, and then now here he is with Atlanta. A lot of people think there might be some type of, Canadian bias, or like, you know what, we've got so many guys coming up from the college pipeline that are, didn't take the CFL route, that we're going to give these guys a shot. But I guess I'll ask you, what do you think about that? And your thoughts overall on that whole situation for him? Because I think it's great. Go ahead. You've already tear up the CFL. It's always going to be there for him. The backup plan will always be available. He's good enough for that league. We know the lack of quarterbacks that are available in the CFL. But how long can he go here trying to showcase himself if they're not really going to give him much of a chance?
As long as they're writing checks, you keep chasing the dollar. So you go to an Atlanta situation where you have a mid 30-year-old guy that signs a 4-year deal. And what do? They draft a quarterback immediately early in the first round. And I heard Penix Jr. is lighting it up. So now Kirk Cousins is already still upset about them drafting Penix Jr. And now you bring in Rourke. So again, what is Rourke's situation? You evaluate the 2, 3, 4 teams that are giving you an offer to compete. Now, will he be able to say, "Hey, I'm the third string, therefore I'm going to go on the practice squad"? It's all about the guaranteed money. If he was guaranteed $750,000, you just bounce to wherever you can go. Look at the NBA, not to cross sports here, but there's dozens upon dozens of guys that are just floating check to check. Hey, I'll 2 years, I'm the number 11, 12 guy on this bench for 2 years. I just made $6 million. Now I'm going to go here. And so, hey, if it's working, don't worry about it.
That's true. If the checks keep coming and he finds a team, then why not? And like I said, the CFL will always be available for him. There's a few teams that we could look at in the CFL that could probably use a guy like that. And, the thing is, like you said, you've got Penix and then you've got Kirk. The fact is there's no spot. He's fighting for the number 3 job. If they signed him, he is the number 3 guy at this point. And he's done all right in exhibition games. But the cool thing is, you mentioned about last night's Bears game. I'm wondering how much we're going to be able to see him, and if we can use it from a betting perspective, because I'm cheering him on. There's no hiding it. But if we can use it from a betting perspective for such a guy with a chip on his shoulder, such a guy that's so happy to have landed somewhere that wants to prove himself, I feel like he's someone that's going to take every bit of rep very serious, as if it's like an NFL regular season game, because it'll mean that much to him to be a starter. So I look forward to watching that, and we'll follow. Well, maybe we'll follow the NFL exhibition. I don't bet too much of it, and the reason being is the same as you, is that I find, number one, it's very hard to give out plays on it because it's kind of like NBA Summer League. People that have -2.5 on the Heat and they close -6, well, your followers can't get that number you got at 8 in the morning. So you might get a good number on the Patriots -1.5 first half, but if your followers are getting 3 in the hook, you're not really doing them much of a service, right? So it's tough.
It's called a lose-lose situation in our business, in our lanes. It doesn't matter if it wins by 40. Hey, Andrew, what are you doing? You know I work 8 to 5. You know I can't bring my phone in. Therefore, at 5:15, I read your text and I saw your email, and the line was 3.5, and it lands on 3, of course, you know. Well, we got 1.5. You know, if you got 1.5, 2.5, you're a winner. Andrew, no. So it doesn't matter.
And you know what? I'm going to pat myself on the back a little. That's how I felt yesterday, because I got the +5.5 on BC, and I was worried because about 40 minutes later, everywhere had 4.5 again, or 5. And I'm thinking to myself, I pride myself on the clients getting every bet that I can get down myself. And just like that, snap of a finger, the line moves down. But quick recap, getting absolutely shut out. The BC Lions lose outright, as at one point, like I mentioned, 5.5-point road favorites. Also, the under comes into play again. So 1-8, that's the record. ATS for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Or sorry, 1-8 as far as the over/under numbers, and now 2-7 ATS. So the one streak that actually stayed alive last night was the under streak. The ATS number picked itself up again with Winnipeg, but the big story behind that game, not only with BC coming off the bye and being so flatlined there, another quarterback goes down, Jeff, and it's really tough in the CFL because we see it every year. There has to be something that has to be done because the depth is a big problem, right? There's a lot of wide receiver skill. There's a lot of guys that can run the ball. There's some defensive players, but there's always been a quarterback issue in this league, and it seems that after the QB1, the skill level for the QB2 seems to be a massive drop off, and it sounds to me like Vernon Adams Jr. will not be the guy. And I've heard rumblings from guys I follow in the CFL media world thinking that they might hit the trade market and actually go and pick somebody up because they don't trust their backup. So they might trade for somebody else's backup. Any thoughts on all these injuries?
Call Atlanta and pick up Nathan Rourke.
Yeah, exactly. See if you can give him a good deal.
Yeah, it just it happens in every sport. Last night, breaking news: Mike Trout out for the rest of the year. A guy that came that started his first 10 years as the shoe-in Hall of Famer, can't win a playoff game, can't make the playoffs with the Angels. And the last 4 years, I saw a stat on Twitter. He's played 41, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, now 2024. One of those years, he played 41 games in the second half of the season. Another one of those years, I think he played 1 game. The other 2 years, 0 games. So, injuries, big part of sports. We know that, and especially in football. NFL last year, they were dropping like flies. I had on one of my fantasy teams for 2 straight weeks, I had my 10 starters up top all in, and my 10 reserves all out, and there was nothing I could do there. I was stuck. I'm like, hurt by week, hurt by week. So it's real tough. It's last man standing or next man up, Andrew.
Well, it's the next man up for the first game we'll talk about tonight. Montreal, Friday Night Football in the CFL. Alouettes versus the Tiger Cats in Hamilton. -4 road favorites now, 49 being the total. And I mentioned there's a drop-off from QB1 to QB2. How about QB1 to QB3? Because it looks like the listed starter for the Alouettes is QB3, Davis Alexander, who's the one that came in the second half last week. and helped them cover the full game spread after the first half didn't look very good. And if that doesn't say anything to us, Jeff, I don't know what does. The fact that the third string guy said, "Hey, hold on, I'll come in and do way better than you," and he showed Caleb Evans what he was capable of and was actually able to throw the ball. What do you think about this game? Because Hamilton back-to-back wins, back-to-back good weeks, but how much do we care about them blowing out the Elks?
We were talking backstage about this. You've done a great job in week 9 every week. Who's padding their stats? I mean, can you honestly, before the 2-game winning streak with Hamilton, really discuss the fact that these teams are getting fat by beating Hamilton, by beating the Elks? And now it's a Jekyll and Hyde situation here for me. I know Montreal has a big advantage on defense here. We all know that here. Now you're talking third string quarterback. It used to be a 30 burger. If you're playing Hamilton, you're going to score a 30 burger. The same probably now against the Elks. I'm kind of torn here. Open at number 3.5, now 4.5 minus 110 at circa. Under over opened at 50 and a hook, now 50 at the circa. It's 50 across the Vegas Strip, other than DraftKings right now with a 49 and a 4. You know, the more I talk, I really starting to talk myself into Hamilton here, which is scary. 22 and a half over minus 20 cents to their team total. Montreal 27 and a half juiced under 130. Call me crazy here. I think Hamilton somehow, some way finds a cover here. Now, we're saying that this is real little pizza and beer money on the money line. I don't expect them to win here. I don't. But I'm also leaning the under here. Now, the third string quarterback comes up and lights it up, and they play a back and forth game fine. But I know Montreal's defense should be able to slow this team down. But offensively, this team scored, almost 80 points the last 2 weeks. Friday night, home, place will be jamming. So it's kind of a tough game in my eyes, Andrew.
It really is. And I think the handicap, which you'd think the part we'd be struggling with the most would be the quarterback problem for Montreal. But I think the biggest thing that we're trying to narrow in on here is how much can we respect Hamilton right now? That's what it really all comes down to. It's not about what we expect from Montreal. It's about what we expect from Hamilton. And I keep going back to, I've said this a bunch of times to you, but I keep going back to when I was at the game and they were up 17-0. And I think 14 of those points were off turnovers or, a fumble or a punt return or all this, then Bo Levi goes into Edmonton and breaks his personal record for passing touchdowns. So my mind's going in a million directions trying to realize, what is real and what's not, what's impressive and what's just against a bad team or not. But again, you talked about it. The Montreal defense looked strong. And then when they had a serviceable quarterback come in the second half, their offense came to life a little bit. With Caleb Evans, they couldn't move the ball at all. And then when they brought Alexander in, it looked like it was completely different. I'll tell you, I do like the under just like yourself, but then part of me thinks, is Hamilton still the same Hamilton? They're the team that we were talking about giving up a 30-piece every week. They're the team that we thought, even if they won a game, they were going to still give up 23 points. That's a concern if you're on an under, especially with Montreal coming off a win. What did they score last week? I think it was 20 points, right? They won like 2016, I think it was.
Yes.
And they had a horrible week. I mean, a horrible game, and they still put up 20 points. So I'm wondering what Montreal looks like again if they play halfway decent. Are they reaching the 27-point mark, 30-point mark? That's the question to me. So I'll tell you one thing I won't be doing. I will not be playing the first half on Montreal because I'm scarred from last week. It kind of threw me off a little bit. So what I'm going to do, and I hear you saying about Hamilton. What I'm going to do is kind of let the dust settle on the line. I'm going to let the line today determine my decision. Wherever it moves, I'm going to make some decisions. See if I can get a better number. If some love comes in on Hamilton, I'd love to get a better number on Montreal. I'll watch out for some reports on some players, but I think this is going to be a big game for running back Walter Fletcher, and you can get his rushing yard number. It's actually available at DraftKings. Um, when you've got a running back that's already getting so many carries, and then you've got, of course, a young quarterback that played okay in the second half, but let's be real, they're still going to want to take it easy with him with that great defense they have. His number's only 52 and a half. And I think that as much as Hamilton's secondary can get exposed, how do you make life easier for a young quarterback? You get the run game going. So over 52 and a half might be a good bet as far as a player prop for tonight. And I haven't been scattering the board with the CFL player props. I've been picking my spots. But I think this one could be a good one for it. And that kind of does benefit the under. If he can get going on the ground, they won't need to air the ball out as much. So we'll see if we can get going with that one. But we got to talk about the Elks. We got to talk about the Elks and the Rough Riders. Yeah, are they still your team? That's the question I'm going to ask you, Jeff. Are you still supporting? I think you're switching to a new team. It seems to me like Saskatchewan's been your new team with the team totals. But what are your
I've
thoughts on
been
this
good with it.
line? What are your thoughts on this price?
Okay, so 5.5 opener with a 51, still 5.5 with a 51. I said to you backstage, listen, coaching change a couple weeks ago, a short week blown out. Last week was the week, right? That last week was the week. 3.5 point favorites, Sunday night special. They didn't just lose; they got smoked.
Mhm.
And yes, they had some late third, fourth quarter magic. They put up a few touchdowns to make it a little respectable. So I would just say initially, any elk backer, I adopted them 3 years ago. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. It's like trying to say the Chicago White Sox are my team. I'm done. I'm a Red Sox guy anyways. But my point is team totals 22 and a half juiced over for Edmonton, 28 and a half juiced under for Saskatchewan. Immediately my eyes flocked to Saskatchewan team total over 28 and a half, and I got that at plus 100.
That's a great price. I mean, good number, and you get again, you're not laying anything with that. You're just asking them to get to a certain number, and it's like what we always say is that you don't have. It's like in baseball. You don't have to worry about the bullpen. You don't have to worry about your team's pitchers. You're worried about one team and one team only. So you can sit back and hell, the Elks could win the game for all you care. You just need one team to do their job. Is really what like the old Bill Belichick saying there. I think when you look at this one, I've said a lot of times because I've been so frustrated about the Edmonton Elks. I said whenever I lose bet backing them, the over hits. And I say, if anybody out there likes the Elks a lot of time, you should just bet the over. So you're talking about the team total with Saskatchewan. Everybody in the world is talking about the new quarterback, Trey Ford, stepping in, making his first start of the season. But look at last week even. I know it was garbage time, but that total continues to go over. And we were talking before we went live together. Saskatchewan, the second best team in the league defensively as far as total points allowed, the dead last team in the league as far as passing yards allowed per game. Is that impressive to you, or does that mean regression is just about to come?
I think they know what they're doing. We talked backstage. For 2 decades, I lived through the Patriots madness, and when they started the madness, they had Ty Law, they had Willie McGinnis, they had Ted Johnson, Teddy Bruschi. They had a real good defense. But as it started progressing, they had that bend don't break defense, and this is a perfect example of it. Hey, we may give up a ton of yards in passing, okay, but it's we'll allow you go from 20 to 20, and that's what the Patriots were so successful. We'll allow you to go 20 to 20, then we'll stiffen the defense, then you'll kick a field goal. So we don't care at the end of the day if you had more time of possession, more yards passing, more yards rushing. We just tell you to look at the scoreboard as you left with your head down because we just beat you. And I think Saskatchewan's got this down to a science right now. Hey, Andrew, throw for 400 yards. We don't care. You might throw for one touchdown and you probably kick 5 field goals.
And with the CFL too, if they're burning the clock, marching the field for that long, only to get 3, and Saskatchewan goes and gets 7, it's almost like they're up by 13 because of how long. And like you said, they always keep everybody in front of them. They never let anybody sneak behind them. They don't give up the big play. They give up the small plays and they let teams chip by chip. So that's why they're giving up those yards, but it's not really equating to the points necessarily. So that one should be interesting to watch. And then we've got the we got the, well, a lot of people actually think is the game of the week, which is Calgary Toronto, which I think you and I were on the same page with the last time we spoke. And the funny thing is, Jeff, the number just keeps getting better. It's ridiculous. At one point, Calgary was -1.5, and now they're 4.5-point favorites at DraftKings. I'll tell you one thing. I'm happy I didn't release Toronto quite yet because it's only getting better. Are you still on the same page with me that we're happy here with this one?
Yeah, and 1.5 and a 49.5. Now 4 with the 49.5. A big corrected line there. What have I said? What have you said all year? Calgary's a great team, great story. Hang around, hang around, hang around. If you let them hang around long enough, they're going to beat you. They've had some good first halves. They've had some good full games here. To me, I only can play one side here. I'm in the same spot as you. I love Toronto this week. I'm hoping it gets to 4.5. This is one that I can go to the window with conviction, sprinkle some pizza and beer money on them on the money line to win outright as well. And I'll even take it a step further here. I will take their team total over the 22.5 here. I got to lay 20 cents. I'm not getting it at plus 100, but I think they score 23 or more. It's 49.5. It's the Sunday night special again. I would lean over here. First one to 27. I think this is that 27-24, 27-25 Toronto outright. I really do.
Shout out to Jesse Schul in the live chat with us talking about Bo Levi. Yeah, he's looking good. But again, Jesse, he looked good against the Elks. We'll see how he looks against the Montreal defense. It's much different. Jeff's Elks or your former Elks. And you're right. I'm right there with you with what you were mentioning there, the price, the score prediction. When Calgary was a team that you and I wanted to bet on, we were betting on them because they were getting points. They were +4.5, +5.5. Now we're slowly asking them not even just to lay a field goal to win by 5 or 6 points, which is completely different than just hanging around in a football game. They lost to BC, or they beat BC outright, and then they go to Ottawa and lose outright in that one. I think everyone's kind of jumping all over the home field aspect here. So it's the question I keep on asking is, how much does home field matter? Yesterday, I had someone say to me, well, if that's the line for Winnipeg at home, does that mean that BC would have been minus like 8.5 against Winnipeg at home? Because that's ridiculous. How much in the CFL right now do we care about it? And that's, to me, the reason why I really like the Argos, because I feel like these numbers are getting too inflated. Calgary is a team, if you remember at the start of the year, I was pretty low on. I thought they were a bottom 2 team in the league. I thought the Elks might be better than them, which was definitely a bad call. But at the same time, it's good to remember what you thought because you can kind of not get too high on a team. So put it this way, whoever wins this game, Jeff, I think it's by a field goal. I think and that's why it's great for an over, as you mentioned, because a lot of times when CFL overs hit, it's when teams are going back and forth. It takes 2 to tango. You know what? I'm curious if you agree with me on this, but I think I'll tell people this. If you're watching right now, I think you have to go hit that right now. You don't wait, because this 4.5, I don't think it gets higher than that. Do you? Like, that might be the highest it gets.
I see this close. I think it goes closer to 3.5 by kickoff.
Yeah, it's going to do a full circle. It might make its way back closer to a field goal, and people will jump over on Calgary. So that'll be a play that I'm jumping on there. And, I'll look for a pretty good game, because you have to remember, and I think you talked about this last week, somebody is knocking on the door in the quarterback room, and that's Chad Kelly. So you've got guys, Nick Arbuckle and Cameron Dukes, competing for that second spot. And if Dukes has a bad first quarter, they're going to put Arbuckle in. Arbuckle played quite a bit last week against the Blue Bombers, and he played against Hamilton a little bit. So now it's just at the very worst time for Dukes. He started playing his worst football, and Chad Kelly's knocking on the door right behind him. So I'm really looking forward to it. And as you mentioned, the CFL Sunday Night Special, it's just like in the NFL. First couple weeks, the overs hit, and all of a sudden now, if you bet the under, turn the game off, and watch some Netflix, you're going to cash a ticket with that one. But any more thoughts on CFL Week 9?
No, I'm excited. I think there's some great matchups. I really, going back to preseason, the Hamilton plus 800 stood out like a sore thumb, and here they are, 1-2 in a row. I think this week will uh, um, solidify my thoughts on them. If they get waxed, they're just beating up, the poor Elks and whoever else. If they're competitive, cover, maybe we're on to something. And if they win outright, look out here now, because this would be a big notch in their belt. In the fact that I'm really interested to see how their offense performs this week. That's the key to me.
And how can they deal with the defensive pressure that they're going to be facing? That's for sure. Jesse said they let Kelly out of jail. Yeah, it goes to show what money does, unfortunately, and what lawyers will do for players of teams. Did they ever exactly say what they did? Maybe you don't want to talk about that. I think it was just inappropriate conduct. That's all I can really say, Jesse. What I thought it was with somebody that worked for the team. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I really thought it was with Chad Kelly. And crossed some lines, and they suspended him for 9 games, which I thought is a pretty appropriate number. And I think if you ask Toronto right now, Jeff, how they'd feel if you told them that they had the record that they have right now, I feel like they wouldn't be complaining. They're 4-3 right now. If they go into Chad Kelly returning 4-4 or 5-3, I think they'd be pretty happy knowing that their QB1 is coming back. Let's jump into the MLB real quick, and then we'll close things up here. A lot of people talk about August being a profitable time of year in the MLB, especially early September when you've got teams that just pack it away. They're done, and you've got the teams you can bet on. Are there certain teams that you find yourselves betting on or against a lot right now?
Well, I can tell you the whole world's betting against the White Sox. I think it's 17 or 18 now, and I think it's 17 in a row. Tonight they are, I think they're no, they're at Minnesota. Again, the numbers are inflated. I'm one of these guys, you know this, Andrew. We've been doing shows long enough. I hope your listeners and followers understand what I'm about to say here. If you didn't invite me to the wedding, don't expect me there for the funeral. I have not been betting against the White Sox the last 17 games. If I did, I'd be at the Bellagio right now, unfortunately. So especially streaks, you don't get in front of them. If a team loses 7 in a row, you wake up that day and say, I'm going to hold that golden ticket. The streak stops today. Well, does it? I mean, let it end, let it breathe, let it simmer, and then it maybe start over again. So I know a lot of people are betting against the White Sox. The trade deadline has ended. Some teams have added some back end help. They've added a few bats. So Kansas City's hot as a firecracker in the American League. There, the Padres are hot in the National League. They added 2 arms to the back end. The Braves trying to piece stuff together. So you got to keep your eyes and ears. And here's the funny: we're 3.5 weeks from week 0. Okay, and once we officially start football, everyone forgets about baseball. And then in September is the month where you got the teams fighting for the final wild cards, fighting for the divisions, and therefore you can get so much meat on that bone by saying, here's a perfect spot to dive in here, when people are worrying about Appalachian State playing South Alabama. And so they all cash the same, guys. So when Crochet is pitching their favorite or pick 'em, I was against them the last. No, you're spot on, Jess. And it is the what we bet on in baseball, what creates those numbers is the starting pitching. And so, especially when Crochet is pitching, who now Chicago wanted to move, his agent steps in and says, well, if you trade us, we need an extension because he's well over his innings already. And anyone that traded for him needs him for September and October. World Series, if it goes 7 games, November 2nd is the last day. So
Wow.
if it's the Guardians versus the Yankees, we might get called for snow. So my point is here, and just brought it up. You can actually fade the White Sox when Crochet is pitching because the number's so low and their bridges and their back end so bad. So great point there, Jess. But yeah, there's a handful of teams to keep the Astros. Again, now in first place. Seattle added Justin Turner, and they
Yep.
added Randy Rosarina. So some teams are right in the fight. So it's a fun time right now, Andrew.
And hats off to you calling the Padres. We talked, I think, what, a week and a half ago about the Padres. They've been a team that their bats have gotten going. Their pitching's been great. What the whole world was betting against the guy that came off a no hitter. How'd that turn out?
Cease. Yeah.
Yeah, played pretty well again. Happy I didn't make that one an official play. But it's interesting, Jeff, right now because, like you said, you've got the teams that sold at the deadline. I mean, the Jays right now, if they're involved in any sort of low-scoring game and it's the third or fourth inning, you might as well just bet the live over. I mean, their bullpen is one of the worst I've seen. Their pitchers they're throwing out, it's horrible. All their games. I mean, good luck betting an under in a Blue Jays game right now. That's for sure. It's real tough. But St. Louis, Chicago, pretty tight one there. I'm seeing short favorite for St. Louis. We got Arizona, Pitt. We've got Miami, Atlanta. San Diego, like we just talked about, playing Colorado, KC, Detroit, Gossman versus Stroman, Yankees, Jays, Baltimore, Cleveland, your Red Sox taking on the Rangers, which should be a good series. What are you seeing today?
Uh, as we were talking, there was a line move here. St. Louis, tough loss last night. 4-2 lead. Give up a three. I think it was a 3-run jack or no, couple doubles and singles. Lose 5-4. Right back at it on a Friday afternoon special at Wrigley Field. I had Fede, first time from the White Sox, pitching against the Cubs. I don't think they've seen him. We've had success betting team totals against Assad. Overnight number 115, now 110. Cubs are hitting. Cubs are playing great ball. How do I dive into this game? It's very simple. It's an 8 right now. I'm going to take a bite at the apple here that the Cards get to 5 or more today, and I can get that at plus 20. So I like the Cardinals team total over 4.5, and I get that at plus 120.
And when I hear you say a team total, I follow. I don't think twice about it. I open up the apps and I join you right there. Has it happened to you much recently, Jeff, where you've had teams where it was a close game, they were sweating out the money line, and you were just happy to have the team total? Because I know that must be the best feeling in the world for you and your clients.
Yeah, you take out so many variables other than Mother Nature that we talked about 20 minutes ago. You got to get to the full game. You got to get to the ninth, obviously, because it's not a prop, but it's a part of the prop market, I guess you could kind of sort of say. So again, when I don't have to deal with back ends, we had Seattle team total over game 2 against the Red Sox. That's the one I talked to you about. Woke up in the morning and it just stood out to me like, oh, and it was five. They were 5.5 juiced under, and they gave me plus 120. We needed a touchdown, 6 or better, extra point, 2-point conversion was a bonus. I think they put up 10. I think we cashed in the third or fourth inning. Nothing better than just changing the channel. I don't care who wins this game. I don't care if it goes 18 innings. That's the beauty of the team totals, and we do a lot of it in hockey as well.
Well, I owe you a lobster roll and much more on Cape Cod for that winner. That was a nice one, and I've never really gotten many texts from you with that. With like you sound confident. Don't get me wrong, but there was something about that message that you sent me that day where it was like just relax, enjoy your night, and take the Mariners. And I said, say less, say less. I'll join you. I'll join you. So, what's going on for you guys over with ECSI this week? I know you've been doing a lot of UFC stuff and golf. What's new?
Yeah, we're rounding into form. We're getting our fall season set up. Of course, Andrew on Monday, and I'm back here on Friday, which probably in November we might move to that Tuesday and then
Yeah,
figure out because of hockey here. But as you said, Wednesdays, Brady Cannon talking PGA and the Olympics, and we got the board covered pretty well right now there. Thursday, Gamlu, Lou Finacaro talking UFC and Abu Dhabi. I said it on the show. It's like I was like talking Fred Flintstones and Yabba Dabba Doo. It's Abu Dhabi, so come if you not follow me, head on over to Twitter at EC Sports Invest. You can jump over to our website at eastcoastsportsinvestors.com. Top right corner is plans and pricing. And listen, we are 9.5 years in. Okay, January 1st, 2025 will be the start of our 10th year. I've lost a lot of hair since then, and they're gray. I have two daughters in their 20s, and you understand why. But my point is this is same face, same bat channel. We're not going anywhere. I enjoy you and I going on to Sports Grid, VSiN, Fox Sports Radio. Whenever they call, we're available. And so, what I like to do is open up the door to anyone that's listening that wants to be a part of the ECSI family. For $3 a day, we call it a gym membership, but welcome to the family. The price won't change. We will text you and email every one of our plays and the reasons why. So, whether you're at the gym, the golf course, at work, or at a wedding, you'll never miss a play. You never miss an email. And the more the merrier. We have clients all over the world. We've had clients that have been with us since 2015. It's consistency and transparency that wins this marathon, Andrew.
I love it. Guys, if you aren't following him, make sure you follow. You can see the handle right there, EC Sports Invest on X. And Jeff, I think I've been at a wedding, been at the gym, and been at the golf course when I've gotten the text from you with those plays. So much appreciated. Hope everybody has a great weekend. We'll be talking again on Monday over on Jeff's channel. Take care.